welcome to another episode of Troll in the Dungeon. It's actually episode 8. I can finally count again. I don't know what was wrong with me before, but apparently I was having an issue counting. Yes, I can count past 2, don't worry. I just had my episodes confused. I think it was because I was planning to put 2 episodes together and I decided not to, because I'm lazy. But anyway, as you can see, our guest host from our previous episode came back. Lord himself only knows why. So, Ms. Klosterman, welcome back to our program here. Today we're going to be discussing the Pixar film Onward, a terrible casualty in the aftermath of COVID-19. It did not do as well in the box office as the studio was hoping, and doing a re-release with this much time between the film's original release and whenever they open movie theaters back up would just cause a lot more problems and have to do a whole new marketing campaign. So instead they released it on Disney Plus. What was it, less than a month after their release?
Yes, less than a month.
Less than a month after their original release, which you saw in theaters. And
yes,
then,
I did.
I saw it recently because someone was kind enough to lend me their time on the Disney Plus so I could watch it on the Disney Plus channel. So we're going to talk about that for a brief amount of time. The film stars Chris Pratt and Tom Holland and Julie Marie-Dreyfus, this is her second Pixar film after A Bug's Life, way back in the day, and where she plays their mom. How fitting. And the two actors, aforementioned Chris Pratt and Tom Holland, are really famous right now because of their roles in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So again, Disney, and they are interconnected. So they obviously have a good working relationship with Disney. This is not a huge surprise to anybody that they've done, that they're doing another film for them. So with all that laid down, what are your thoughts on the film?
I really enjoyed it. It is in my top 10 favorite of the 22 Pixar films, so that is some pretty high praise because Pixar has a lot of good films and I love a lot of them, as you can probably tell.
Yes, we all can tell that you're a Pixar fan. I actually stole this mug from her for this episode. Hopefully she doesn't mind too bad. Don't worry, I'll wash it after. You don't want troll spittle in there. Yeah, the Pixar has had 22 films, as you had mentioned. There are a lot of high acclaim. Several of them have won Oscars.
Yes.
Even one franchise that has had 4 films has won for at least 2 of them, I think. Toy Story has won multiple times, and they've all been nominated. A lot of Pixar's been getting some awards buzz and a lot of respect. A lot of actors keep coming back for Pixar films. Originally it was, I can't remember his name right now. Someone you like, you keep mentioning. You've mentioned how many times he pops up in the movies.
John Ratzenberger?
John Ratzenberger keeps coming back. He keeps getting work. Apparently Alan Tudyk, Firefly fame, keeps coming back too. That poor man, he has to play a bloody chicken.
Not in a Pixar film though, that's Disney.
Still, he has to play a bloody chicken. I'm feeling for him. I watched a video with him and he said, I went to Juilliard for heaven's sake, now I'm playing a chicken. And do we blame him for his being upset about that? No. So, anyway. Back to Onward. It's a nice paint-by-numbers film, tugs at the heartstrings. For those of you who haven't seen it, it's on Disney Plus. So what's your excuse? It's about these 2 brothers who are played by Chris Pratt and Tom Holland, who are find out that there's a spell that they can bring back their dad for 24 hours.
Because we're not surprised that a parent has been killed off.
Yeah, that's a Disney thing, all the way back to Bambi. Actually, probably further than that, but still, there's always a parent who bites the dust in a movie. So there's that whole aspect in the film. So it tugs at the heartstrings, because it's a family film, but also a lot of not as much adult jokes as I noticed as there would be normally in a Pixar film. Definitely much more marketed to kids, which is fine. I mean, as a kid's film. It has a couple of situations in there that made me raise an eyebrow, but it's very, a lot of people compare it to the Dungeons and Dragons RPGs and stuff like that, which is still very popular despite that long history. Several people who've reviewed the film mentioned those elements and how they play throughout the film, and they say they do it pretty well for a kid's movie, so that's admirable. There's a lot of, it's very well done. The drawing and the animation's always is very good. The characters are pretty well performed. I didn't think the writing was up to par as they normally are in most Pixar films, personally. Usually they're a lot more clever with dialogue and such. I think the story is really good, just characters were not as well drawn out, in my personal opinion. I think I would have enjoyed it more. I was like, yay, this is a Pixar film. The marketing didn't do it for me, but I like the actors in it, so I was willing to cut some slack, and I was like, I'll watch this. Maybe this will be, enjoyable and entertaining at the very least, which it was, but it wasn't. There was a lot more potential in it than it could have met. I don't know if it met all that potential, personally. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Pixar has set the bar pretty dang high because they've had some very wonderful films over their 25 years or so of being a studio. I guess it has been 25 years.
Yeah.
Well, that they've been doing the full-length films because they were doing short films for years before that.
Yeah.
But I think Onward is meeting the standards at the very least.
Yeah, it's pretty solid. The big question after a film hits theaters, the question, usually there are a couple of things. I'm going to bring up a topic. Do you see the potential for a sequel story-wise?
I don't, because it was so focused on the brothers' quest to find their dad, and the quest is over, so where is there to go from there?
That's a good point. Also, I actually, with that point, I agree with you on. I also think that because of the financial downfall, which was something they didn't see coming, it really hurt the chances for a sequel.
Yes, exactly.
There's only been a couple of franchises within Pixar that have had sequels.
Yes, and Toy Story and Cars are their two biggest money makers.
Yeah.
So it's no surprise that they each have multiple sequels.
Yeah, and they just had Incredibles 2, which skyrocketed box office, to say the least. So I personally don't think there will be a sequel either. I'm sad about that because I would have liked to see more of these characters, maybe able to do some Pixar shorts with them, as they can grab, Chris or Tom from one of their sets and be like, mind recording with us for like an hour, a couple hours or so? Actually, recording sessions are a lot more in depth, but having done a little bit of voice work in my time, but there's a lot more to it. So there's that. So anyway, any other parting words you want to have for the fans before we scoot?
Nothing I can think of.
All right. Well, this is Stephen Gasinski and Beth Klosterman signing off of Troll in the Dungeon. Be bold, be brave, be courageous, and we'll see you next time.